Carson, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, man.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
We met, for those of you who don't know, we met in college, and I saw you start foam like from day one.
Yeah.
You got your
Day
first
one.
office.
Yeah.
And it's been crazy to see it grow, and you've had a lot of cool ideas with it.
Yeah.
So
A lot of pivots.
it's been a while. It's been like a year.
It's
since
definitely
I've
been
last seen you, and like probably 2 years since we've last spoken about what is going on with foam and like what your plans are with it.
Kind of quiet with a lot of stuff. So
yeah,
it's been fun.
Why are you quiet with a lot of stuff?
Strategic, but I mean, a lot of it was school, man. I just graduated the MBC program in March of this year, and so a lot of it was just get done with that, and then went full time. I guess May 4th was the official day of full-time foam for like the first time.
May 4th, 2024?
2024, yeah. So
crazy.
Yeah, it's just coming up about on a year, which has been sweet. So
who your team is? Everyone that you met in the
no, it's kids. Actually, some of them are from undergrad. It's kind of a mixture. We have people that are just from outside world, but a lot of it was people I met through the U, through a million different things, through parties, through school, real school stuff, Lassonde, through all of it. So
I saw a lot of the social media stuff that you post is like you hosting these massive like foam parties.
Yeah, yeah, those are fun.
That's always funny to see.
Yeah, no,
like
I mean
everyone there wearing foam.
Yeah,
holding
the
foam signs.
Dude, that specifically was such an interesting trial. How do I say? It was basically proof to me and our team that like, okay, it seems like a lot, but that's like it's something you truly can actually just get done, right? It's it looks like a lot, but it's really just planning and getting stuff ready. But no, the tailgates are cool because we actually got every tailgate we've thrown so far, we've actually never paid for or really had any cost for it. Yeah, which is crazy, right? But it's a lot of just planning and making sure everything's dialed. But it's really good for getting the brand out there.
Well, it's like free marketing.
Yeah,
like the best, most efficient way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, especially when we're marketing to a college audience, tailgates, party style stuff works really well.
Yeah.
Again, we're moving. The brand as a whole and foam in general is definitely evolving.
Yeah.
With me, obviously graduating, I think it makes sense. But moving into kind of the real world, right? Younger professionals working kind of like yourself, right? That is kind of our new target market. Obviously, it's people that are, just kind of getting out of college. Maybe they're starting the first little bit of their career. They're in a big city for the first time. Maybe they moved here. Maybe they're from here. But that's who we're trying to talk to. And so we're trying to evolve a lot of the messaging. But what is interesting is about that whole party thing. It's taking the same core things and then applying that to a different group. So we have some stuff coming that'll be similar.
Well, and I don't know what I'm actually able to ask you.
Yeah, no,
like
feel free.
We've talked about like some stuff, but like it seems like you're doing it's more than a laundry service.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And I thought like, I mean, it's a really cool business model that you're going for, but there is a lot of strategy involved in what you're doing. Like 100%. On a surface level, like, it's a laundry business, but there's a lot that you're doing like behind the scenes that makes it so much bigger than what it is on just like the surface.
I hear you, man. That's strategic. Yeah, we want people right now to just think we're just a laundry service business. We have some really fun stuff coming. A lot of it will go live in the next couple months, I think, is the hope. Yeah, so we're finally about ready to start talking about it, which is going to be a fun time. I don't know, like a couple months. A couple months is a good idea. I mean, not right now, but coming soon. I think laundry specifically is just an interesting space to innovate in because it's just such a old market, honestly. It's been around since, as long as the ancient Sumerians invented the process of laundry, right? Rubbing clothes on rocks with water. There's basically no innovation for thousands of years. 1950, they created the washer dryer, and then literally for 75 years, there hasn't been anything else. Then 2021, foam was created, and we think that that's kind of the invention, the step there.
What got you started in that? Was it just like seeing that?
In laundry?
Why has this not evolved? Like, why are we still doing it the same way?
Conceptually, I've gotten there now. Like, my worldview and just view of the market as a whole has definitely widened, and I've gotten a clearer picture. But the honest truth is, when I was 19, I was young and dumb and at Lassonde, and I hated laundry.
Yeah.
That's literally all it was. There was no vision of grandeur. It was literally, I was solving a very specific problem for myself and not for even customers.
And now you're doing laundry all the time.
Literally. Yeah, no, literally. So I just go into the dorm rooms at Lassonde. I was like, oh, I hate laundry. It's so just frustrating. I didn't like it. I talked to some of my friends. I did freshman year business scholars project. I threw up a survey and I was like, oh, there's a lot of people that also hate laundry. I was like, okay, how do we solve this? And at that time, I didn't even know that there was competitors or how to evolve. And again, foam was just largely a school project. It was a fun thing to do throughout undergrad. I was like, oh, it's cool. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. I thought I was maybe going to be an investment banker, going to tech. And then one thing led to another. Coming out of undergrad graduation, the business school, some of the guys there approached me. We're like, hey man, you should think about trying this NBC thing. And I was like, maybe, like that's crazy. So I was like, oh, it'd be sweet to go get a real job and make a bunch of money. But I was like, all right, let's take the risk. Let's try it. What can't hurt? Just do 9 months. So I spent 9 months from like August of 2024 or 2023 to May of 24 in the NBC program. And throughout that, it was a game changer. Learned so much, but really? Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very interesting stress test of like, how bad do you really want it? But also like, what can you learn? How do you evolve? How do you take one thing here and take it and improve it and take what you learn and make your business better? And I think we did a lot there. And throughout that program, I was actually like pretty much a solo founder. We had a team that kind of exited. I was pretty much alone, grinding for about 9 months. And then in the last year or so, at the kind of the conclusion of NBC, we raised funding from a group of investors that I was introduced to through the NBC program, and then have used that money and some of the capital there to bring on a small team. And we're small, but we're mighty, man. We get a lot done. So it's been cool.
I feel like, and I don't know what exactly you learned in the NBC program, but I feel like one of the biggest barriers to entry for anyone who's looking to start a business or evolve their business is really identifying the value that you're providing.
Totally.
You know, and a lot of founders, a lot of business owners, they're a little egocentric. Like, it's about like, I want to be CEO, I want to be business owner, make a ton of money, but it's like, to be successful at what you do and to be able to start a successful business or run or expand a successful business, it's about, well, just provide more value. Like, what's the value that you're creating for people? And it seems like when you first started it was that market fit. Like, kids in college, they didn't want to do the laundry, and that's its own value. So how do you think that's evolved as your business has evolved?
And it's a great question. I mean, first, before I answer that, like, you are 1,000% right. And I feel like a ton of young founders specifically, but just people in general, miss that, right? Especially the CEO thing. We did the Lassonde thing. They kind of push you towards like the founder thing, and it's egocentric. It is. It's very, I'm running a company. That's very cool. And it's cool to go make a bunch of money. I've been lucky to work with a lot of really successful founders. I have some friends that their parents have been pretty successful. I worked for one of the former CEOs of Groupon, and I've learned a ton from them, right? But what I've learned is like, it's not about the money. I mean, obviously the money's nice, but it's about its value, right? And how do you get to the wins and the value and the money is through focusing on your value and finding how you are valuable to people and in their hearts and their minds. And then that can change. It's something we were really focused on right now specifically. Actually, that's a call I was just on. We were literally just talking about that. About just market positioning, branding, what we mean to the world. Like, again, when I was 19 and started this thing, it was, hey, I am a kid that wants to do laundry. You hate doing laundry. I have a team. We'll do the laundry for you. And that was the value, right? It was a very easy sell when you're in college. It's like, oh yeah, totally. Come to my dorm, grab it. Easy. As we've evolved and the business has evolved, we're moving to a new market. You have to change what that value is. Well, how do we fit in this new market? Or for older people, maybe they're like mobility limited. Well, okay, like you literally can't do your laundry. So now it's a very different sell. It's not just, oh, that's nice, but no, it's literally like I'm solving a very real problem where it's either I have an aide come in or I just physically can't do it. And my granddaughter's got to do it. Like it's tricky. And so that's like a weird small niche we found. Or nurses, for example.
You wouldn't even think of that.
No, not at all. And it's weird that as you go throughout, you find these niches. It just disappears. We found nurses lately, right? They work all day, 12-hour shifts, 4 days a week, and then they're off 4 days. Those 4 days, they hate doing laundry. So the one thing they don't want to do is chores in general, but laundry is a big one. And so we found that as a niche, amongst other things. I mean, I can go on and on about the different niches we've found, but back to your point about value. We have definitely evolved the thought process of value, and it's interesting to think about. I guess tying it into kind of the real estate point, we're moving into a bit of a change. We're moving into more of like a B2B style approach. We still will definitely have our B2C world, but B2B is a thing we're definitely looking into, and finding how we provide value not only to, I guess, what you call the end user, what we call the end user, so the people actually getting the laundry done, but there's people throughout that value chain. So real estate owners, developers, property management companies. We're in a ton of discussions. We've been in meetings this whole week, really, figuring out what value we can provide to them. It's a unique spin that I don't think really anyone's looked at. I'm happy to talk about it, but basically we're working with people that are outside of just the end user, and then finding that value with these people in very different positions where they're maybe not the ones actually using the product, but they can derive value from kind of what we're creating and the service we're spinning up.
So one of the things that, like, what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast and the people that we have like join us is really just understanding how things work, because a lot of these things, like when you say, like older people cannot, like, they literally can't do their laundry. Like that idea of figuring out how things are really working and answering questions that no one really thinks about asking is like such a central part of like what we're trying to accomplish. So when you're talking about laundry and this value to development and businesses and real estate, like what are those questions and what are those answers that people just don't think about, because there's a lot of parts to that. Like you can imagine, maybe a hotel, but like what are those questions that you're answering through the business?
I mean, maybe taking it way bigger than you're looking for, but I really have started, again, as you just go through a day-to-day of niche to niche to niche to problem solving, all these things, you start to, at least for me, I'm starting to get a clearer view of like what is just the market as a whole, but capitalism, right? Like capitalism is a very big machine, is really how I look at it, like a big wheel and cogs, and it has inefficiencies, right? Like, oh, that wheel's not spinning exactly right, and people, business owners, or just entrepreneurs, innovators, see those cogs or those little gaps where it's not correct. They solve it, and then money flows to them, and then the wheel gets better. It's always an evolving cycle, which I think is an interesting kind of way to look at it. But it's to that point about what questions. I mean, there's a million questions that we're answering every day, but it's So like, as far as scaling it and repositioning yourself to the market, and transitioning out of a college audience into more B2B market base, like what's your plan there, and what, as far as like questions that you're answering through your business, I mean, like how more, again, just like what's the problem that you're solving, and like what are people not realizing is a market need that you're solving? Yeah, that's a good question. Well, B2B is very different. I'll say that. B2C is like super cool and fun, and it's easy. You can have branding and you run some Instagram ads and you throw people to a website and they kind of all just do all the work for you. B2B, the sales cycle is very different. We've had to learn a ton, really. I mean, we've had to basically spin up a B2B like enterprise team. Sales cycles are super different. They're longer. And the questions asked and answered are very different. From a value perspective, like what are we solving? We think that laundry is something that no one should do. That's just our general mission. Our mission as Foam is never do laundry again, right? We think that we have like a weekly recurring service and monthly, but basically we do laundry so that you don't have to. We think that laundry is a chore that general people shouldn't worry about. We want to give you time back in your day to go about and do whatever you want, whether it's skiing, hiking, going out with your friends, playing video games, even just taking a nap. Like we don't really care what it is, but we think that the 3 to 6 hours you spend a week doing laundry is something that you shouldn't do. So that's from an end user perspective, that's the problem we're solving. But from more of that B2B development angle, we think that there's a gap in the amenity space where we can help increase basically net operating income by adding an array of experiences, basically. So I view it like Salt Lake specifically. There's a wave, in my opinion, that's heading towards the kind of the Salt Lake like luxury apartment space specifically. Where they had kind of an arms race in the last 10 years around physical amenities and experience, like I guess physical experiences, meaning like rooftop pools, high-end gyms, saunas, et cetera. Every building you go to now has that. It's a very competitive market. But now it's like you can only build so much of that, and then you're kind of out of space. So then what do you start adding? And just a wave in general. It's not just laundry, but we see a wave of services and service-based amenities that are coming to these buildings where residents are demanding this, right? As you start to see a younger audience, kind of people like me and you, moving in, kind of growing up, but also moving into this world where we've been accustomed to DoorDash and Uber since we were like 16. Like these things have been around in our life, and residents are expecting them as they move into these buildings, things like this to be just a thing that exists. And so we think laundry service is going to be a big piece of that, and we're positioning ourselves with these buildings to basically be able to capitalize on that through kind of a unique model that benefits the owners as well, where they can increase net operating income.
So there is like, I know like some apartment complexes have like the valet trash service.
Yeah, totally.
And you put your garbage outside every night, and then someone comes by, picks it up. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Or are you thinking of more along the lines of like a hotel operations, or like actually working with apartment buildings to do some sort of valet service or like VIP service like that?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's funny you say valet trash. There's not a ton of people I feel like know about valet trash.
Talk about that. That's why
that makes me feel better. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely following a similar model. We're kind of calling it like concierge service, or we're trying to figure out the exact positioning right now. But definitely a very similar model. In that, like the idea is providing this luxury service that when you move in, you're like, holy crap, this building does my laundry for me too. Like, what a cool building. And we are ready and able to spin up as much production on the back end as possible to get it done, and we can, and we are. And so I think there's some interesting stuff coming there for sure.
So how has that looked so far as like making that transition, building those relationships? Because one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand about creating a successful business is the relationships that you make. Because you can, you could do a hard sales pitch to anyone and try to convince them to use your services, but we focus a lot on that on our team. Like, you can't convince anyone of anything. Like, there's either a need that needs to be solved, a problem that needs to be solved, and if they see your value, then you don't need to sell it. You don't need to convince anyone.
I agree.
And a lot of that comes down to like the quality of relationships that you're building, who you're creating those relationships with. So when you're making that transition, what does that look like, and how are you even getting in front of these developers or these big apartment buildings that they're luxury apartment buildings? Like, how are you creating those relationships?
Yeah, I got really lucky on the relationship point. I did a bunch of networking and events, kind of like you, when I was like 18. Met this guy who ended up becoming very high up in kind of the Greystar world. He's now transitioned out and started his own company. He kind of got us our start. So the luxury like thing and B2B as a whole, I didn't know, to be clear, like I did not know that even existed, especially when I started Foam. But even just like kind of coming into college, like I was kind of rounding out, and I was like, I'm not really sure. Like, I have a pretty good idea where this is going to go, but not a great idea. He gave us a really good opportunity with one of the kind of top buildings downtown. Started there. It worked really well, and we're like, okay, something's here. And so that kind of got us like our foot in the door. And from there, it's been just a lot of like truly personal relationship building, to your point. I think on that point, to kind of generalize the advice a little bit, a lot of it is is putting in work. I heard this quote from, I think it was Kobe had it hung in his locker, but he talks about how there's a stone cutter and he has like a hammer and he hits the rock 100 times. And on the 101st hit, it splits. And so somebody watching that could think, oh, the 101st like hit of the rock is what split it. But really it's the 100 hits he hit the rock before that set it up for that 101st. And so I guess what I mean by that is that, a lot of people think that like relationship building is I go to a person for one thing. If they don't give it to me, I move on, we're done. For me, I don't look at it like that. I look at it as like, we're all in this big market, but we're all playing a lot of times together. That's why I was excited to come to talk to you guys. It's like, it's you never know where things, what things you do reach what people, or kind of like what value can come from things that might not necessarily, like, if I do that, like, why would I do this? You know? I think there's a lot of value in providing value. So we keep talking about value. It seems like an interesting theme, but I think just being someone that creates that value and then shares it, but also like helping people, just giving help seems to be a good way to get those relationships rolling.
And then there's another part of it where it needs to be collaborative, because even if you don't see, you know, the specific thing, like, what am I going to get out of this meeting? You know, just the sentiment behind collaboration. A lot of people think that, you know, I'm gonna become successful and I don't need anyone. Like they're fooling themselves, because you need to collaborate. You need to. It's like you said with the, you know, splitting a rock. Like all of that comes down to collaboration. And when you know, you don't know the people who are going to collaborate with you. And a lot of times those relationships come from, you know, a meeting like this even, you know, and there's just so many random things that when you have like a definitive place that you're trying to go, and then you just keep your mind set on like collaborating with a lot of people and building those like meaningful relationships, and then providing value to them. It just kind of comes back.
I agree. It's a loop. It's like karma. You kind of,
it is karma.
You put it out in the world, and I think by delivering value without an expectation of it coming back to you, there's something out in the ether that like it always finds its way back to you in weird ways. I mean, strange example, but I went to coffee the other day with a guy that's a pretty like locally known developer. We were kind of just hanging out talking. I was just updating him on his stuff. He was telling me a lot about developments, and I was kind of connecting him to some people I know. And then that led to a really interesting inbound from one of the guys he knows. And now we might be doing like a pretty decently sized deal with them, which I was like, okay, crazy. Like yeah. And I was like, oh, crazy. Like it was just like a coffee meeting that I didn't think anything of. There was no expectation, and that's not, obviously you're not purposely saying there's no expectation and then hope there is. But it truly is. It's just kind of being out there. And I think that value finds the people that are looking to like move the world forward. And so I think that,
And I think another thing is that a lot of people think of value as like monetary value. But there's so many other forms of value. Like, you know, you could create value in just connecting someone to another person. You know, like this person that you meet, maybe you guys aren't a fit right now for something, but like something comes up in the conversation and you're like, dude, I know exactly who you should talk to. You're this creator of value by doing that. And I think a lot of people really focus on the financial and monetary value of things, but that'll come, you know, but it's just creating value, even if it's not monetary, and it'll kind of just come back. But that value is formed in so many other ways that are, you can't even quantify it.
I mean, you've been good at it. We together since college, Masson Mafia. I mean, it's a deep cut. But I mean, like I personally love being around. I surround myself like personally with people that are kind of those like point guard type people, connectors, or I think they're known as. But like, I love people that are like, hey, dude, like, you should meet this guy. And I love to be that to other people. Like that's my favorite thing. I honestly hate people that kind of gatekeep their connections or the people they know. I'm like, I'm always it personally. And I guess maybe it's advice people can take. And in my opinion, it helps you as well. But if you're the guy that's like, oh my gosh, you should meet this guy. And you're always kind of just linking people, I think you're really good at it. That's like a skill that always benefits everyone, really. But back to that point about putting things out into the ether, it always comes back to help.
So, when we started like the Lasan Mafia thing, that was funny because that was the idea of like
Totally.
just creating connections between people, and something about that just it was mostly the group chat that didn't work out. Like there were just too many people.
It got too big.
It got too big too quick. But then like there is that side of it, but also for a business to operate, like you need to have the cash. You do need to have like some sort of financial compensation to just run a business.
Totally.
So like I know as far as like an investment standpoint, laundromats generally have pretty low overhead, pretty profitable.
Yeah.
As a laundry service, like how do you structure, just growing the business financially so you can have these opportunities?
Yeah, that's a good question. So to be clear, we don't own a single, aside from our vans, we don't have assets.
Yeah.
In that sense. It's a unique model.
Cool. Yeah.
It allows our overheads like next to nothing.
Yeah.
We have some really interesting, so I guess, okay, back to value. We talk about this a lot. So actually NBC was really cool about this. We had a specific lecture series specifically around, it's called The Theory of Value, which at the time I thought was like the craziest mumbo jumbo, like hippie. Yeah. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
But something about it, like it does get to kind of the cores of like, why are you important? And you find areas that you're important to, not just your customers, but there's a lot of areas that aren't just your end user, the person that pays you. That is like one part of the value, but there's a ton of other areas you're providing, if you're a good business, that you're providing value to. So for example, on our supply side, we deliver a lot of value to our laundromat partners that we work with that might not necessarily, well, it is monetary for them, but for us, it's not necessarily like a monetary value. We're not making money from that, but we're creating a lot of value in a way that, as far as we know, there's very little thought of that in our market. And yeah, I'm kind of on a different side of what you're asking, but looping it back to value, it's like, okay, so we have value with these, our customers, right? The people that get the laundry done, but with developers, with our laundromat partners, it's all about providing value and unique value, right? The same value I provide to someone that I do their laundry is very different than the person that is a laundromat owner that wants to partner with us, or with a business owner that has multiple apartment buildings in downtown Dallas. Like those all have different value streams and sell, like the way that we're valuable to them are all different, but uniquely it's like it's keeping that value as a.
It is interesting though, because you wouldn't think of like, it's just one of those things that I don't think a lot of people would think about. Like you want to start a laundry service, okay, first step is like I need to buy laundry.
Yeah.
But what you've done is just,
it's different.
Discover that I don't need to own it to utilize it and provide value to the person who does own it.
I mean, Uber doesn't own a single taxi.
Yeah.
Right, and they're one of the biggest operators of delivering humans pretty much anywhere. So it's a similar idea, but yeah, I think a lot of value gets created by not being VC funded. So to be clear, we didn't have funding for the first good bit of time when we were just starting out. We were bootstrapped largely. We've now taken some funding, but that process of not having money, and especially starting it in college when you really don't have money, forces you to, if you want to win, you have to get really creative about why you're valuable and how to solve problems in a way that's very capital efficient. So we don't have multiple millions to spin a laundromat up out of thin air. We have some interesting ideas on that in the future for sure, and we've been.
Do you think that's kind of where
building it, but
you might be headed? Like, do you think that to scale it to the point that you want to get to, and we could talk about what your future plans are, but do you think that at some point to continue scaling, you're going to have like foam laundromats?
Possibly. That is a question we'll see. I mean, I want to make it so painful that not owning our own is like, okay, let's just get one. We have some interesting ideas around capital structuring, ownership, like SPVs. There's a lot of fun things you can do with that we haven't at all dove into yet. I have ideas, but for the near future, no. I like the model we've built. It works really great, and everyone else, they also really like it. So it's a mutually beneficial for sure. But yeah, I mean, keep an eye. I mean, foam, if we ever build one, it'll be the coolest laundromat you've ever been in, I promise.
Yeah, with like rocket ships and stuff.
Yeah. Coffee shops, DJs. Pretty cool.
That'd be pretty cool. So what are your plans with foam?
It's a good question. I mean, for now, like we just sat down and had our kind of Q1 planning, the whole year really. But
Yeah.
if we can hit our goals, expansion's definitely on the forefront. Right now, it looks like if we kind of keep our current growth path, Q1 2026, give or take, like somewhere in that area, just outside expansion, right? Not leaving, but just expanding outside of Utah. So. We'll kind of keep the cities specific because there's a couple cities that are very interesting that we don't want to publicly talk about yet, but there's a couple opportunities that nobody sees yet, I think, and they're cool.
That's interesting because
outdoor expansion.
So you don't have to talk about the specific cities, but I'm curious because that is something that we talk about. Like, how do you define opportunity in specific pockets? Like,
sure, yeah.
As far as
that's a good question.
Figuring out how things work and what problems need to be solved in a specific market center. How do you define that and analyze it for your business?
Yeah, that's an unbelievably good question. For me, it's trying to, we have to, and that's why I say 2026. This year is about nailing and like crushing Salt Lake, right? How do we win in that market that we've defined? How do we make sure we are best in class in every setting? And beating anyone that can compete with us here, and really dialing down why and making that a uniform process, right? So if we're able to pick that up, that then if we want to go, X, Y, Z, that it's the same thing. And so from there, it's really just about defining markets that to us offer similar capabilities of, okay, why did we win here? Right. Okay. There was X, Y, Z here. So then zoom out. Okay. What are other opportunities, cities that are either better or similar that have the same core competencies? And for now, we'll keep that quiet, but there are some cities that have very similar things that made us work basically. And so
oh dude, I'm not gonna probe that too hard.
Yeah, well, we can talk about it later.
That's exciting.
There's ideas.
Yeah. So tell me, like, what exactly is foam, because it has changed a lot at this point in time. What if someone asks you what is foam?
Yeah.
Like what would be your response to that?
Another good question. So we literally just sat down as a team and really sat down. It's kind of silly because it's very like semantics. It's like, oh, I mean, we're just this, but it matters. Dialing in of like when someone asks that, like what is our answer? Because for a long time it's like an easy answer is like a laundry service or DoorDash for laundry. Right. But I don't want to be known as that. And I think that by sitting out and specifically saying, hey, that's a laundry service specifically is not what we are.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like what we talk about. So one of the answers like that we've kind of found is really true is like foam is not just another laundry service, right? Our mission is never do laundry again. And that might sound silly, but and we have a weekly recurring subscription where that is built specifically. It's not just to base subscriptions can get scary. I get that, but it's built to automate laundry day. And so all of our customers, we get them on a weekly schedule or, there's intervals, but basically a schedule where we pick up their laundry, they just give it to us and it's gone. So there's other companies that exist out there where they're like, hey, we'll come whenever you want. And that might be nice, but for us, that's not what we're trying to build. We're not trying to build just the one-off spin-ups. We're trying to build something that literally deletes laundry day from your thought process. It's a chore that no longer think about. When you look at some of our customer reviews or just talk to people that have used foam, that's one of the big things they celebrate. We've had people that have been with us for years. And they're like, yeah, I started using foam and now laundry just doesn't exist in my life. And it might be kind of a foreign thing to people that are just doing it. Or people that have, there are people that are out there that are like, oh, I like laundry, or it's not that big of a deal. And it might not seem like that big of a deal. Try foam. Trust me, I can give you a promo code. Just try it, I promise. Because once you try it, we've had people that are like, oh, I'll do it myself. And then they try it and then they're with us for years because they're like, oh my gosh, it sounds so simple, but just automating that simple chore where that you always have the fresh outfit or the clean, socks or whatever. You always have clean clothes. You never are thinking about that pile of laundry. It's sitting in your back of your closet. It's big.
You just made me think of another I think a pretty cool opportunity. I don't know if you've thought about this yet, but and maybe you have, but as far as B2B and working with these apartment buildings,
sure,
everyone in the building having their own laundry machine, their own washer dryer. that's taking up a lot of energy, a lot of water.
Yeah. Yes.
Like there's like you being a laundry valet service, I'm sure that would reduce the overhead of that building, reduce the expense of the tenants.
Imagine if you're a developer that doesn't have to build a building and step back. Imagine you're a developer that is building a building and you don't have to build the hookups. Also the CapEx. Washing machines aren't cheap and they degrade quickly. You have to get refreshed a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of maintenance. Like imagine if as a developer, as an owner, you just didn't have to build that period.
Yeah.
But yet the same core competency gets solved. That the problem, right? Laundry. You have to have something.
Yeah.
It's solved in a way that also makes you money. Like what? How is that possible? So I lower my CapEx, but I raise my NOI at the same time. Like how is that possible? And my residents love it. It's something they're like, oh my gosh, it's a competitive advantage. It's like a win-win-win. They're like, how in the world is that possible? Like we are building
That's actually a really good point.
We're building that. And so we're getting to the point where people are not building laundry machines. That is not a thing yet, to be very clear. Like that is our vision, right? It's like, screw it. Don't even worry about this whole thing. Build buildings without it. And it would fundamentally change the way buildings are constructed, which is, it ultimately comes down to an argument of, do you believe laundry is done in the apartment or in the home or out of the home? And it's a fundamental conversation. Our belief is it's best to be done out and that we can handle it. We have a professional team. They're trained, they're certified, they're really good. Yeah. And so it's an argument, but we think it's something.
You know, when in my senior year of college, I was doing, I did management entrepreneurship. That was like a major, but I did like supplementary education around renewable energy.
Sure.
And I actually talked to the SVP of Ecolab, which is this publicly traded company, but it's this huge company. And I was speaking to Emilio Tenuta. That's his name, and he told me something that was like this big aha moment for me. He said, he asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, like, sustainability. And because that's what I'm driven by. And he's like, that's not a job. Like, that is not a job. Like, you saying that you want to do sustainability, that doesn't exist. Sustainability is a tool. Renewable technologies, renewable energy, that's a tool that can be used to improve efficiency, reduce overhead, and increase long-term profitability. So taking that same like concept to what you're planning on doing with that's such a huge factor of it, because these are all things that go into construction costs, adding all these hookups in every single unit. If you can use your service as like, it is more sustainable, I imagine.
100%.
But it's also, you're reducing their expenses and you're increasing the profitability of the tenants, because they don't have to, pay the same in utilities, I guess. It's sustainable, but it's also increasing this monetary value for everyone.
Correct. Yeah.
For everyone.
For everyone. And
for the tenants, for the developers, for you.
Correct.
Like there's somehow monetary value is being created for everyone.
Correct.
And it's reducing the environmental impact.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Which is one of those problems where you think about, how did these, how do you find a company to create? Like, by solving a problem like that, you're pretty competitively differentiated.
I hear you. No, I mean, dude, that is, again,
because you're getting me hyped on this right now.
Yeah, good. No, good. It's the vision we're spinning. Yeah, it's
just thinking, like,
from a development perspective, it's interesting.
Because I'm a real estate guy.
Sure.
And like when we're thinking about like development, I didn't even think about that.
I know.
Like that you can just get rid of this entire thing.
Why does it exist? It shouldn't. Like I'm telling you, dude, laundry. Please think of us just as a laundry service, because that is, please. That's all I say. But no, it's an old problem that everyone looks at, especially like people like when I'm coming out and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm not going to be an investment banker. I'm going to go start a laundry company. They're like, what?
Yeah, why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
But
it's a great question.
Yeah.
Well, laundry is a space that people aren't looking at, that I promise you they will look back and say, like, damn, I really wish they looked at that. I believe that. We are going to change the space. I truly believe that. There's a lot of inefficiencies that in a lot of areas, to be clear,
Yeah,
not just the
yeah.
end user, but from a development perspective, like we're excited about, and from like at the end of the day, like sustainability, just eco-conscious service is actually a key driver for us. Something we really think about on that call I was just on. That's literally, we were hammering on that. A portion of every sale of our subscriptions goes to, you know, combat climate change. We care about that.
Yeah.
But at a core level, right? Just looking at our service, right? So, we use 100% like renewable soaps. We also use like allergen free. Everything's eco-conscious versus like kind of your Tides or anything like that.
Yeah.
They're full of a lot of harmful chemicals, get in the water supply. There's a lot happening there that it might be small every load, but enough loads compounded matter.
So talking about like just like backwash and gray water.
Sure, yeah.
Like, because that's another interesting thing about laundry. These aren't things that people think about.
Not at all.
And that does have this this downstream effect on,
it definitely does,
on, you know, the community, the environment, like water supply. So could you just explain what those inefficiencies and those problems are as far as like your environmental initiatives?
I mean, the easiest one to look at, setting aside soaps and chemicals and all that, is just purely an efficiency standpoint. Meaning, so if you're a resident using a residential laundry washing machine, a lot of times in apartment buildings specifically, they're horrible because you have to buy, okay, if you're looking at like a typical building, it's, you know, anywhere from 100 on the small end to like 500 at some of these bigger buildings. Think about how many units that is and that you have to keep good. You're not going to buy the greatest, most efficient machine because you're not motivated by that. You're motivated by just getting the thing that solves a problem. For us, we partner with commercial laundromats that have extremely high efficiency machines that are built to be very efficient, so that they have different things like a heat sensor, for example. We're going to get into the nitty gritty, but so instead of just like a residential machine will go, hey, put in my laundry, it'll spin for 50 minutes. After 50 minutes, it's done. For us, it's like there's a heat sensor that it detects, okay, well, now it's done, so it turns off. And that small efficiency matters when you compound it across a lot of customers a lot of time. So again, from a purely energy specific perspective, there is a big one. From a water perspective, there's some stuff there.
No, yeah, into the water though, that's another big part of it, because if you're creating this automated process of like people drop off their laundry, one of the big inefficiency just in the energy grid is that it's really unpredictable. Like when energy is being used, and if you could remove, you know, this variability of like laundry or this high energy utilization just randomly, and just from laundry or whatever, and then you take it all and do it all at the same time in an off hour. You know, you're also creating like grid efficiency. At a very large level, zoomed out, you're completely
especially
correct. If you scale your business,
that's where we're headed. I completely agree. It's interesting if you look like, okay, just think about a typical apartment building. Like, if you pull a washer dryer out, that thing has the biggest plug in the entire unit. It's not a typical wall plug. It's one of those big ones. Why? Well, it's drawing the most energy possible for the entire unit. Oftentimes, not in generalities, but imagine if you could kind of remove that. Like, there's some real changes that can happen from a city level perspective, but again, from a developer perspective, it's like, well, if it's not like a triple net, like you are paying, somehow you're paying the utilities. Well, delete that utility, you're making more money. And you also make money other places, but there's ideas. Sustainability matters. Again, to your point, it's not, I think a lot of people take the whole greenwashing thing and they'll take it and like, oh, like we are sustainable, and then they use it to get customers. We don't look at it like that. It is to us, it's a tool. We use the allergen free, kind of like safer vegan stuff more because it's actually just a better product to use. We found it's actually easiest to serve kind of the most in need customer, and for the people that don't care, they're just like get a nicer service, as opposed to kind of going up and down and varying, but that also happens to have some eco benefits that are cool for us. And
so what are some of those things now, like talking about like the actual effects and water I'm not super well educated on the actual water side, but I do know, like from just a customer perspective, using kind of the soaps and detergents we use as opposed to what a typical, I guess, resident would use, or if you take the swath of residents we're servicing,
all of them collectively, if they all use like a Tide, for example, that has kind of some of the more harmful chemicals.
Yeah.
Again, it's all talking about scale. At a one-to-one level, it's not that meaningful, but
Yeah.
when you start scaling things up, things start to matter. And so yeah, the chemicals is the big one there. I believe. You might know more than me.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. So what do you think are some of the biggest problems that you're solving right now, or some of the biggest problems that you're facing as a business? Like
That's a good question.
Because I know you can't talk about everything that you're trying to do because you're keeping it a little bit,
on the deal.
But what are you facing right now that's preventing you from talking about it? Right this second. Like, what are those barriers that you're facing?
So from I guess execution, like actually getting it to the world, it's a lot of it's basically ready. A lot of it's in testing/training. But in terms of getting it out, it's just purely like a strategic thing. Like we just don't want to talk about it yet because it's not time.
Yeah.
From just going backwards though, like a true problem section. Right now, like our biggest thing is we're growing faster than we expected, and we're just trying to keep up with that demand. And it's everything's working, which is actually good. It's working better than expected.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's just internal processes, like getting employees, training. I mean, kind of typical things you'd expect. There hasn't really been any like, oh my gosh, we don't know how to solve this thing. But it's just been a lot of like the pains of growth, which everyone faces. But we're getting after it.
So for partnering with, I just keep thinking about this development thing, and
it's interesting.
Just taking that away from the development process and getting rid of that entirely. Let's say a developer builds his building and they make a partnership with you, saying that you're going to be their guy, and there's also risk associated with that because that means that you have to stick around.
Yep.
Right. So what then? Like, how do you think that's gonna work out? Like, if you're partnering with developers before they do
the construction process,
before the construction process,
sure.
How do you see those partnerships going, and how do you ensure, that solution is available through the lifetime of this
property? Yeah,
this property.
It's a risk they're taking, no doubt. I mean, to speak numbers, I think we just passed a little over 500,000 pounds of laundry processed in like the last year and a half.
That's crazy.
It's a lot of laundry.
Yeah.
Again, that doesn't necessarily, that alone is not what's going to take someone to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to build anything. I'll take that risk.
Yeah.
Ultimately, to get people comfortable, you have to have the first person that's willing to take that jump, and we'll do it. I know contracts are a big thing that helps, obviously, just making it legal, but we have a team. We're really dedicated, and we're not just in this to make money. I truly believe it. It's solving a problem. Like I said, it started as a problem that I faced in a college dorm room. Yeah. It's turned into something way more than even I could have expected. I mean, when I met you and I was like, hey man, this thing. I don't think either of us thought that this would be where we're at. But I think it comes down to like, I'm not just here to make money, and we're here to like truly make it. Like when I say never do laundry again, or that our mission's to say goodbye to laundry day, like I'm not joking. Like it really, I mean that. Like we are really trying to eliminate it. It's not just like a thing we're saying to get money. It's true. So I would say like right now that's kind of the best thing I can say is like we truly believe that mission. We're in it for the long haul, and we've done it enough times that it's like it's possible. I can guarantee it's possible. And our team's really good at laundry, like really, really good.
That's crazy. Yeah, and you could even start even if it's not these big luxury apartment buildings. Like you could, I bet, do it with just like the standard residential development,
walk-ups, townhomes. I mean,
we're added to an HOA.
Agreed. There's a lot of people have laundry, man. Everyone you see is wearing dirty clothes at some point. Yeah. So it's a very big market.
So if you had to tell me like some closing thoughts on like what you're doing, like what would you want like people to know about what?
That's a good question.
What Foam is doing. And
I mean, I would just say keep an eye on us. Keep Foam in mind. If you're a developer, please, like I would love to talk to you. If you're a real estate owner or manager, also would love to talk. We are growing, especially in that sector. But if you're also just a person that wants your laundry done, we are here for you. It's called Blueprint, correct? Use code Blueprint. First week is free. We made that for you guys. I wanted to make sure that's the name. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So try us out, please. If you're in the Salt Lake area, like we are here to help. That
You
is
got your van too
that's
now.
why we got the van. Like we're legit,
Pick it
man.
up.
But yeah, no, I mean, closing thoughts is like just keep an eye. That's kind of the best thing.
So where would people reach you?
Instagram, Foam Laundry, at Foam Laundry. Website's www.foamlaundry.co, not .com. Coming soon.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, those are kind of the two best channels. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We're everywhere. So yeah, those are like the best. We have some really fun content.
Excited. We're gonna have to do another one of these in a few
Sure,
months
let's do it.
now.
No, I would love it.
And we could see
let's check back in.
Yeah, because that'd be awesome.
Let's do it. Yeah, that's what I was just telling you. We just finished shooting some content that's coming out Valentine's Day is like when it'll actually launch. But that content
has been a big part of your
huge right now. Like so that's again. I keep talking about this call. I was on this is literally just a call just barely.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about that. Like again, branding. This is where a huge piece of where we're going to start winning. We're creating a brand people resonate with outside of just laundry, right? Like we partnered with Lonely Ghost, which is like a local, I guess they're pretty big, but clothing company. Like what laundry companies do you know partner with like a pretty popular clothing brand?
Yeah.
We're trying to find ways to resonate that isn't just about the laundry, but it's about our brand that we're building.
Yeah.
We talk about Foam Loves You. That's like one of our slogans.
Yeah.
It's big. It's been around forever. But it's true. Like we really do.
Feels
like
good every time I open Instagram when I see Foam Loves Me.
Yeah. We just keep remind people that Foam loves them. But that's we truly believe that branding is big for us, and it's we're not just trying to be your dad's laundry company on the corner. Like we're a brand that people resonate with, and we have merch. Like we're different than a lot of people, and they resonate with our content. We're young, we're hip, we're with trend. We try to be, and I think that conveys itself through our content, through how we talk about ourselves, through what we wear, how we wear it. I mean, that's very separate from what we're talking about, but I think it's a really big, important piece. And yes, social media / just digital marketing as a whole, whether that's ads, paid, social, organic, all the things are huge for us. So yeah,
that's awesome. Well, I'm really excited to see what you guys do.
Yeah,
and it's been cool to watch since our freshman year of college, like what you've put together, all the ideas that you've shot around.
We try a lot.
I'm excited to see how it goes, but dude, it's been a good
pleasure, man.
Yeah, we have to definitely do this again.
Let's do it.
It's always a good conversation.
Down.